last call. Awake thou that sleepest. Arise from the dead.
Read the Bible, you'll find out that God's not too happy with what's going on around us.
Redeem the time, because the days are evil.
The Bible has not changed.
Boldly proclaim the restoration and preservation of Christian values in America.
Satan has brainwashed a whole nation.
As goes the church, so goes the nation.
Nobody's convicted of anything anymore.
And now, here's Last Call with your host, B.J. Edwards.
Boy, you barely got here in time.
I know. Hang on.
We're on the air. We're live.
Yeah, I know. Always doing that to me. You always want to be on time. And I'm always trying to drag it off, right? Hey, welcome to Last Call. B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. Great guest this morning. Good show this morning.
Always good show.
Yep. Okay, I got to get through the warning, don't I? I got to get through the disclaimer. By the way, a good friend of ours, Neil, mother-in-law passed away. God be with them. And Neil was hoping to be on the show this morning, but couldn't make it. So go with God, Neil. Go with God, brother. Go with God.
And he's recovering from a knee repair, I think.
Yeah.
A leg repair.
He's having all kinds of fun. Hey, you're about to listen to 2 hours of opinion and entertainment supplied by Last Call Radio. We're not doctors, lawyers, politicians, professional journalists, nor do either of us hold a degree in anything, a doctorate degree in anything. Not that would make any difference this day and age. Our opinion, of course. We only ask that you personally and or corporately do not take our statements or those that we voice from others personal, nor do you recommend you act on them as if they were facts, although they might very well be. Just that. Our opinion, of course. You're not required to listen to, act on, repeat anything that you hear, nor assume that they are facts, and that any information we present is by no means meant to harm or threaten anyone. And for our other listeners, our Christian listeners, for the record, this is indeed Christian Talk Radio with a sting. However, I'm not a pastor, nor a preacher, street or otherwise, nor do I speak in tongues unless you consider natural law tongues. And please, Jesus was involved in politics. Who did he talk to? What's a Sanhedrin? Politics, by the way, being the atmosphere that all societies work and thrive, and at the moment in America where the battle rages. Welcome to Last Call. We have a great guest this morning. We have another doer. We keep running into these doers, Mr. Anderson. I don't understand that. What's happening?
They want to do something, and I think that the good Lord has given us a gift of an idea that makes a lot of people comfortable doing.
Yep.
What is that?
Other people uncomfortable seeing. That's the natural family movement. I mean, it's a simple answer, folks. A simple answer. Occam's razor. The answer is obvious. If it's obvious, don't look for another one. Like getting the right person elected to office. Yeah, that'll help. We'll get into that in the second hour. But the first hour, we have an on fire activist out of New Hampshire. And she's promoting the natural family after she got bit, or after she got the natural family virus. We'll get into that. I have, for those that are looking to complain and not do anything, grab yourself a cup of coffee. Just go ahead, grab yourself a cup of coffee, because the next couple of minutes you don't want to hear, because I'm going to make some suggestions. Okay?
Do these suggestions mean there's something to do?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
There's complaints about money. I think an article about somebody went to a government function and they wouldn't accept cash. What do we do? Here's what the missus and I do on date night, Friday night. Fridays are cash day. Anything we spend, no matter where we spend it, is cash. I know. It's an idea to do. How How about the issue with the school protest? How about taking a sign at the school protest that says, release the hostages? We seem to have forgotten about them, haven't we? Hmm?
That's a scary thought.
Yep. It's all about this and that. We want to put this. What about the host? Come on. What about the families of the hostages? What about them? Come on, folks. How about the issue? Go ahead.
Oh, the family situation, both sides of the fence. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible situation. When you think of a million plus people starving, what about those families? Those little babies in arms with no food.
Yep.
No clean water. Yeah, a lot of things to take care of there.
Yep. Well, we got to get Israel. We got to get the Muslims. Issue with the border trespassers. How about stop paying for them? If there was a law that would imprison companies that hire trespassers, illegal aliens, lawbreakers, where would we be with regards to the border, folks? When I have services done, we had recently had to pay several. Well, anyway, we had an issue at home, and I insisted of the people that were working for me that they would be English-speaking workers only. By the way, go ahead.
You would get called names for that, but I think it's a good idea.
I'm just saying English speaking, because when somebody comes to my house and there's an issue, I want to make sure they understand the problem, number one, and any questions I have, number two. And if they don't speak English, how can I do that?
And any directions you might have. I agree with you.
Yep. Look, we hear a lot about separation of church and state, especially as a Christian. You need to know that Satan is a superb mathematician who specializes in division. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Can't wait to get to our guest. Hey, good news, bad news. Let's start with the good news. While you were away, let me get this out of here. Okay.
So for the past week, right? We were away.
Yep. Good news. Argentinian, through their new president, Milei, just had its first budget surplus in 16 years after gutting government bloat. Woohoo. Some of you may not agree with this, but speaking of good presidential material, Governor Ron DeSantis announces Florida has evacuated over 700 U.S. citizens from Haiti. And I asked this question earlier before the show. If the floor falls under Donald Trump, what happens? Who's our next presidential candidate? Who's in line? Haley? Really? Who's the backup? Michael Avenatti says he is willing to testify on behalf of Donald Trump in hush money case, folks. This should embarrass. I don't care what side you're on. This should embarrass you as an American. What they're doing to a former president, trying to bankrupt him legally. Man, could we ever use the money that Donald Trump is spending on legal? Could we ever use that, Mr. Anderson?
We could. We could have built the wall with this money.
Yeah, and then some. And then some.
Yeah.
And of course, oh, hang on a second.
We got a call.
Yeah, if I can get it. Caller, hang in there, caller. We'll get right with you.
No problem.
Argentinian through the new president, Milei. Okay. You know, Dems like to project. And listen to what they're saying, because they accuse us of doing exactly what they're doing. Hillary Clinton claims Trump wants to kill, in prison, his opposition. We just talked about the trial, didn't we?
He does? What are they doing?
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing.
400 or 500 in jail now that
Yep.
haven't had their constitutional right to a hearing, let alone a trial, for 3 years.
Keep that in mind. Good news. Mistrial declared in case of 74-year-old Arizona border rancher accused of murdering Mexican migrant on his own land. Jailed FTX founder Sam Brinkman-Fried turns on his celebrity endorsements, including Tom Brady. That's going to be interesting. DOJ agrees to pay $138 million for mishandling case where sports physician abused female gymnast. How about this? The Milwaukee Bucks have normalized their post-game prayer circle with more and more players joining in. Good news, folks. It's out there. You could make it, by the way.
You could
Harvard's go ahead.
Got to look for the good news, but it's there.
Yeah, I've got more good news than I got bad. Harvard suspends the Palestine Solidarity Committee for remainder of semester, although that's changing. Rapist who impregnated 14-year-old girl to lose his testicles as part of his sentence. Not a bad idea. Louisiana man who admitted to raping a girl when she was a young teenager has opted to undergo surgical castration as part of his sentence. What do you mean opted? What do you mean opted?
Yeah,
Hey, you're losing them, brother. You're losing them. You misused them, you're going to lose them. Bad news. Caller, are you with us, caller? Hello, caller. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
What's
Good
up?
morning.
Good morning.
Is this Jack?
This is Clem.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah, this is Clem.
I'm going to put you on hold because I think you want to talk probably at 10:15 and after, right?
Oh, I don't care. I couldn't get on with I don't have good enough internet. I'm almost in Canada, so
Be careful.
I just told you.
All right, I'm going to
No,
put.
I'm not going to Canada.
Yeah, I'm going to put you on hold till we bring our guest in from New Hampshire.
They're arresting Christians in Canada.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Be careful. Hang on. Going to get to the bad news. Biden to block oil gas drilling across 13 million acres in Alaska. Biden drastically changes Title IX rules. Department of Education unveiled a sweeping set of rules on Friday that basically, there was a clamoring for women's sports, folks. Clamoring for it. They got it. And now what? It ain't old Whitey. It ain't those conservative Christians. They're being done in by themselves. As you sow, so shall you reap. Oh, yeah. There you go. Maybe I ought to put that in the good news category. U.S. prepares to sanction China for assisting Russian war efforts. Folks, we are playing with fire. Playing with fire. New York City high school soccer game canceled after migrants refused to leave the field. Home Depot in New York hires security to protect customers from an increasing number of migrants and thieves. Senate approves $95 billion. We're going to get into that in the second hour. $95 billion foreign aid. Wow. And a leading cause of death in America today is what? Pharmaceuticals. Hopefully we have our guest. I don't see her in there yet, or is she in there?
No, not here yet. Okay.
Well, we're gonna take a break, and after the break, we'll hopefully get to our guest. And Mr. Anderson, if you would please take us to break.
Last Call with BJ Edwards. Real talk about real life.
And welcome back. Our guest for the first hour this morning, I love talking to this young lady. She is a member of the New Hampshire House of Representatives. I think she got in office in December of 2022. She lives in New Hampshire, graduated from high school in 1988 in New Hampshire, earned a BS degree in business administration. Her career experience includes working as the Assistant Parks and Recreation Director in Milton, New Hampshire, as a residential mentor at Shortridge Academy, and she was appointed to serve as town of Milton, New Hampshire selectman. Folks, we have a housewife with children that was doing dishes one day and said, you know what? I think I'm going to run for the House of Representatives in the state of New Hampshire. Huh. And she got the job. She's just bored, I guess, being a housewife. Claudine, come on in and welcome to Last Call.
Hello, how are you?
We're blessed. We're blessed.
It's quite the intro. I do need to make just one correction in case anybody out there does know where I'm originally from. Was from the blue state of Massachusetts.
Okay.
So that's where I graduated from. Was from a high school in Chicopee, Massachusetts. Born in Springfield, in a city, to a single mom. So yeah.
Wow.
I wasn't raised in a natural family situation, but it kind of molded into one out of necessity from my immigrant grandparents being very involved in my family.
Yep.
So,
yep, there is adoption of sorts going on, but that not born in a natural family is more the rule than the exception to the rule, Claudine. Unfortunately,
yes.
And that's why we're focusing on trying to shed a light on the natural family, a historical best practice. I mean, it just is. There's a lot. I mean, if you look at writings, if you look at history, any honest psychologist, sociologist would tell you that the natural family, by the way, we're talking about one biologically born man, one biologically born woman in a lifelong committed monogamous relationship, is the best environment to bring a child up in. Now, if you want to make sure that your child has a lot of stress in their lives and has a lot of bad experiences, hey, forget about that natural family thing, okay? just take care of yourself. Don't worry about the kids. They'll grow out of it, right?
Right.
Yeah, go to the prison systems and interview some of those kids that didn't grow out of it. You'll
well, at one point, we have to grow up, right? And so we have to create what and bring back what family's all about. And I'm an example of one of those, as well as many other people that have come from broken homes and divorced homes or latchkey kids. So it's one of those. So. And the way I raised my children was completely different. I tried to send my children to a Christian school, but there was a lot of issues there as well. And so I decided to homeschool them and did that for 18 years. But yep, you're right. And then after that, 2020 came, and there was a whole other agenda going out in the world that changed many lives, and including mine and my family. And we, as a family, with my daughters, we went out to explore our state to see what was going on. And that's kind of what brought me here today.
Neat. And you talk about the 2020, talk about that. What happened? What you mentioned that was a critical time. What was going on at that time in your family?
Well, we were used to being home because we homeschooled, but a few of my daughters were already out working, and because of the COVID, the pandemic, the shutdowns, the restrictions, the mandates, at the beginning, it just seemed like, okay, well, we'll listen and comply. Mm-hmm. But, as everybody else started to see, or at least a good majority of people started to see that things weren't changing and it was actually getting worse. We started to get in the car and drive around to different rallies and fight against the shutdowns, the mask mandates, and started to attend different school board meetings to help those districts to provide opportunities or an option for the children and staff not to wear masks. And we met a lot of wonderful people throughout the state who really believed in liberty and take it to the grassroots level and fight back. So that's what we started. Even one of my daughters, it was her birthday, and we went to 2 rallies across the state on her birthday just to fight the mask mandate, which was, even today we laugh about it. And she ended up becoming quite the little spokesperson herself and started speaking out. And it was a great opportunity to show that they had freedom of speech and they can use that no matter what age they were.
Child abuse. I can't believe you did that to your child. Shame on what 2019, 2020, 2021, what that created, folks, was opportunities. Again, behind every issue, there's always an opportunity. We can complain about it. We can say it's going to get worse, or we can try to do something about it. And you chose to go the easy route, right? You chose to do something about this, right? That was the easy thing to do, right?
Far from it, because it was unusual. It was uncomfortable.
Yes.
And not everybody felt that way in my household. So, there was a lot of tension. But when your spirit is telling you to do something and you don't know what you're going to do, but you'll figure it out if you just start putting your feet forward. And even when your family may not be 100% supportive, it just starts to take on movement. And when they can start to see some results or start to see that we're being empowered just by using our voice, I think that's what really started to motivate my family, but also people that knew me. And also through that time, I stood up against my church leaders who were really pushing the mask mandate in our church. And also we couldn't stand. That was really the part that I just couldn't contain myself anymore, is we couldn't stand to worship. And I thought, there is just something really wrong here. And God just got my feet firm on the ground. And before I knew it, I stood up, and then my family stood with me. And I think that was the moment that I knew we had to march forward for God. This was not a small task at all. And after going to this church for over 23 years, I was called into the office and had a lengthy discussion as to what I was doing. And they basically, I asked them, I said, so under what authority are you telling your members of the church that we can't stand to worship? And they said, the church's authority. And that's when I knew, this is not my church. If it's not under God's authority, it's not my church. So, and my husband actually was right there, and he totally agreed, and we moved on. That was not easy. I was a long-standing volunteer there with the youth and different ministries, and I think that right there, it was a changing moment for me, that it was time to stand up in our local level, which was as a selectman. Not knowing what the future was going to lie. Like, are we ever going to get out of a lockdown? So little by little, we had these mandates, and I slowly became an example of not following the mandates. And those there was some backlash, but for the most part, we removed the mandates. We removed those shields and everything else that was put up to create a division physically between the people in our own community.
I know you get this a lot, but thanks for what you're doing. Okay, you probably get that all the time, don't you? Especially, look, you mentioned the family. No family is perfect, but 2019, 2020, 21, 22, even now is an opportunity to become a better family. Yes. It's an opportunity to become a better church, by the way, a better individual. Now, because of the way you were brought up, I'm guessing that you had to become a fighter. to get through to where you got to today. It wasn't easy. Look, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't have one father and one mother. What I'm saying is that there's tough times for all of us, and how we come out of that, what we do with that, is really, really telling a lot about yourself. You can do the negative thing, or you can say, okay, I'm not going to take this any longer. This is wrong, and I'm going to do something about it. That make any sense to you?
Absolutely, because I'll tell you, when we were in that shutdown mode in 2020, I literally could hear my grandmother. She was a strong cornerstone in our family. Her and my grandfather came to America in the 50s, after World War II. My grandmother was actually one of 14 children to a poor family, and I can't even imagine, but it was a 2-bedroom home, so not much living space for all these children. But at 15, during World War II, she was taken right out of her home in the middle of the night. Her parents tried to hide her in a root cellar, but and that worked the first time, when the Germans and the Polish army, who were with them, to take the children. And I know this story because in college I did this interview, and it was probably the best thing I ever did while I was in college. And I got to learn more about her story. And so that story is embedded in my soul, and I carry that. And so when the second time, when the Germans came, they looked through the window and they saw where they were putting her and her brother, and then they came and took her and put them in a military truck with many other young teenagers. They needed workers, and so she was taken to Warsaw. She saw Hitler and Stalin. She was basically lined up in one of the Warsaw schools with many other teenage children, and pretty much inspected like cattle. And the ones who were hardy were the ones taken for work. And she worked at a dairy farm in Germany for 7 years, milking cows every day. So she had this story that just was about survival. She obviously survived. She made it in England. She met my grandfather. He actually he was on his own since he was 9 years old. So because his father wasn't around, his mother couldn't afford to take care of him, and so he basically worked for a farmer until he was a young, probably like, I think he said 13 or 14, and the Polish army took him in. And so he at that point couldn't share much more of his story. It was too painful to reiterate. So, but the good story is that they worked hard. They had 2 daughters while they were in an encampment or a refugee camp in England, and then later came to America when my mother was probably about 7 years old. So there is that survival instinct. Now, and coming to a country when you don't know very many people, I can't even imagine what that is. Like, I do have compassion for people that are taking those steps to do that. It's not easy, but they did it the right way. They got their passes and all their papers in a row, and they were able to get here legally. They worked hard. They worked saved money. They bought a home. They did everything the American way. And growing up in that environment really showed that grit is going to help you survive. And so in 2020, when I'm like lying there thinking, dear God, where are we going with this? He really just, I heard my grandmother say, you're going to have to get up and fight. You're going to have to fight. And that's all I heard. And I didn't know what that meant. But you know what? You put your feet on the ground, you start moving forward, and you've got a voice. Everybody's got one. And that's, even when it's scary, you're not one to speak in front of people. I wasn't. I mean, I did a little bit in my own community, but this was a different challenge. This was going against the government. Yeah. This was not easy. And people were afraid. And I got ridiculed at grocery stores. I was almost arrested 3 times for not wearing a mask. it was just kind of crazy. Like, this is where we are. And it happened so fast that people just allowed it so quickly. And it just kind of took this movement for me, just took a whole role on its own. I met amazing people that are today in the state house with me, continuing to fight for liberty, for ramifications of what happened during COVID, for our children who are dealing with transgender issues in school. And it amazes me how much this fight is so aggressive on the other side. It's so aggressive that
But Claudine, we're going to take a break here, Claudine. When we go back, we're going to talk about the American way and the family. But Claudine, there's no resistance. I mean, I'm sorry, there's very little resistance, and that's what they've counted on. And you mentioned the church. I mean, the church can help be the backbone of the resistance. But and I could relay a conversation I've had with a church member recently about, we're in the end time. So, what are you supposed to do, right? I mean, what can you do? Well, there are some things we can do. If we get a chance, we can get into that first or later. But first, I want to go to the natural family and how that's playing out with regards to the American way and the family. Claudine Burnham, New Hampshire, hang in there with us. Mr. Anderson, if you would, take us to a break, please. You mentioned Claudine Burnham is our guest today from New Hampshire, a representative of the state. And Claudine, you'd mentioned your grandmother and the American way, and I want to tie that into the family, because the family has an awful lot to do with the American way. And part of what we haven't done in America today, you mentioned transgenderism, and I mentioned child abuse earlier. Are you kidding me? If you look at what's happening to children in America today, that's child abuse, folks. But it's happening because the families are not the structure that they used to be and that they need to be. They're not the best practice, which is, again, that one man, biologically born, one woman in a lifelong committed monogamous relationship with their children that could be adopted, but normally biological. I think I read something where the birth rate in America is as low as it was in 1976. Wow, that's crazy. So natural family, how can that help out, Claudine? How can that help out?
Well, I think we need to be able to celebrate those who are doing their best, working hard to be as a family unit. It's not easy, as anybody knows. There's just so many there's so many divisions against families. It's just easy to go a different angle and not stay true to what the family values are supposed to be. So I found it as I had heard about it, and I thought, okay, well, there was a lot on my plate, and I thought, I don't know how I can add one more. But to be quite honest, this is actually more important. It gives families a chance to stand up and celebrate their hard work efforts, keeping their family together, uniting other families. We have a lot of other months in our in our year that we have to, allow to happen for other types of families that are out there, and they're even in the small town, And I just felt like we need to do something. And
Black History Month. If you look at the month-long and week-long and day-long celebrations that exist around the world in America, you'd be stunned. And one of the things you should be stunned by is there's no family celebration month, no natural family celebration month.
Exactly.
And that's purposeful, because our adversary knows that if they get rid of the family, it's game, set, and match, because that's a vacuum that can be never be filled. But they're going to tell you, if you give them enough money, if you give enough of your liberties away, you can have what that wink, wink family is. Well, you can't. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I totally agree, and I just think that it's not in your face, but this is an opportunity to bring families together. We don't have even family celebration festivals, things like that. There's plenty that happen in June for Pride Month. I mean, some of these so-called celebrations start off with a day. I remember Black History being just a day, and we would learn just that day, and then it became a week, and then it's a month, and it's all great to have that history. There's nothing wrong with that, but like you said, there is nothing for the family. And when people are working so hard to be that family unit, it deserves to be celebrated. And I love what Natural Family has to offer, and just kind of bring those values back.
Your signs are on the way. I gave you 2 different versions of the sign. Okay.
Okay.
You can use either one of them with regards to the Natural Family. You got the Natural Family virus. So, and I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. Not because of the position you're in, although that may be helpful, but because of who you are and the fighter that you are. And you've had to come up. When I came up, I had a hard time coming up. And what I failed to recognize, what I failed to acknowledge was natural laws. I was trying to ignore them because that was hard work and nobody else was doing it. And once I embraced natural laws, and by the way, that's why we have the term natural family, not traditional family, not nuclear family. By the way, Britannica has already changed the nuclear family to include non-biological fathers and mothers, 2 mothers. I don't know what's going to happen to children when they wake up and realize that there is no Santa Claus. What do you mean there is no Santa Claus? That wasn't really my father. That wasn't really my mother. They see from natural what's happening. So I just want to focus or get you to think about the term natural, because it's very important, especially when the terminology comes up. Traditional changes over time.
Mm-hmm.
Going at the rate we're going right now, tradition is going to be anything but one biologically born man, one biologically born woman. The natural way, by the way, the parts fit.
Right.
So if you talk about the natural family, so you got the virus. So what's the first thing you did? You went up to the rooftop and you started screaming, right?
Yeah, nobody cares about that. But what I did do is, it was really, I went through the website, which was very helpful. There's a lot of helpful tools.
Thank you.
The proclamation template is wonderful. So I used that. I actually sent it right off to the state. I said, you know what? I don't know where I'm going to land as a state rep coming this fall, because we're only a 2-term representation. So, but I sent it off for proclamation. And from my understanding, it should be signed by the governor. I'm not sure how he's going to support that, because he does support other types of celebrations. So we'll see what he decides to do. But it is in the works, and it should be available by Thursday. My goal is to bring it in front of our state house legislatures, which we have just under 400 members. We're not at full capacity yet, but and present it there, because our members on the other side love to present all of their festivities. So, but it's been interesting because I'm trying to get colleagues to join me. Surprisingly, I'm getting crickets. So they're not
kind of like the church. Go ahead.
Exactly. I'm like, so they will stand with me if it makes it to that point. They're not willing to kind of push it out from the grassroots with me, but they're willing to be there. So we've got some of that going on. I'm also looking at presenting a request of proclamation from my town. And so that way these signs can be placed up on the major roads without being removed, as well as in the our nearby city, which they're known for not allowing any signs to be provided to be staked in the ground. on the roads. So we'll see what they do. But I've got my signs ordered. I do have people that are interested in at least placing them out. It's just the beginning, but that's how it all starts. Somebody's got to do it.
I talked to, I got a call from one of our fans, if you will, got bit by the bug, the natural family bug as well. And they've been going, I mean, they're walking the pavement. They're going to businesses, they're going to churches, they're going to institutions. And what they're finding the most success with is small businesses. And they're finding very little success with the church, which I think is very, very telling, very telling. And part of the beauty of this movement is it's not a negative movement. It's a positive movement. We're asking for a positive, no different than asking for a Gay Pride Month or for Black History Month. No different than that. We're asking for that. And the responses you get are very telling. They're going to tell you a lot about the people that you thought you knew. They're going to tell you a lot about your churches that you think you know. They're going to tell you about the businesses that you're doing business with and maybe not doing any more business with. They're going to tell you an awful lot in a positive manner. And this is the key, because as Christians, we are so conditioned and conservatives. I don't know whether condition is the right word, but we certainly respond negatively. Oh, this is getting worse and it's going to get worse. And this is the end of days. And oh, we can't do anything about it. That is our position. That's embarrassing. That it's embarrassing to us, but it's also embarrassing to our Creator. Has He no power? Did He not leave us with any? Yeah, we have the power.
That's what Jesus showed us, right? Yeah. Jesus showed us the power that we have, and that we do need to stand up against tyranny, but apparently that died off somewhere. I don't know. And then we're just sitting here waiting. And I totally disagree with my Christian friends on that. I had one woman at the gym. She's like, "Oh, the rapture's coming." I'm like, "Yeah, I've been hearing that a long time." I'm still here. If people were listening to that 75 years ago, I don't think that they would be. I don't think they'd be here. I think they would have
English speaking.
Yeah, they fought, and they did what they stood up, and they survived, and they went through what people were probably back then thought was end times as well. But I don't know. I don't know why people are so afraid or just so not interested in stepping up.
Look, we're America. We're spoiled rotten. Maslow's hierarchy of needs start with the basic needs for water and food and shelter. And it gets up to self-actualization. And America as a nation is at the self-actualization level where, I mean, the poor in America live like kings and queens compared to other nations. So we're used to having our convenience delivered to us. And we don't have to, quote unquote, work for it anymore. We're going to get our education paid for, evidently. Just all these things that we expect has spoiled us, and we don't have to respond. At least we don't think we have to respond. Now, somebody that's been through the ringer, like you and I and others, and some people that have gotten that bite from the Holy Spirit, are telling a different story. But that's not the majority, and I guess that's okay. I mean, that's where we are. That's the way it's meant to be. And that does require us to work and develop mental muscles and even physical muscles that other people aren't developing. And where we're going to use them, I don't really know, but we are prepared. We're in position and at the ready because we have been doing what I believe God has called us to do. And that's the right thing. Claudine, we're going to take a break. I'm going to try to get Jack in here he has bad connection. He had come in by phone. Maybe he has some comments. Anybody else that have any comments or questions, please unmute yourself and we'll let you in. Claudine Burnham from New Hampshire, and we'll be back shortly. Thank you, folks.
Faith, discussion, and so much more. Last Call with BJ Edwards.
And we are back. Jack, are you still with us? Hello, Jack. I guess Jack is not with us. Okay.
Is that Jack from Maine?
Yeah, it's Jack from Maine. He tried to get in on the internet, but couldn't.
Well, I have to say, when I heard Jack on Coach Dave, I think it was last week, that was a motivator for me. I said, my gosh, I've got to get involved in this. He was so on fire. And I said, all right, God, I'm going to step in, and we're coming close to Mother's Day, so we can do this. And so, he was a huge motivator for me. So thank you, Jack.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Hey, why don't you bring Norm in? I think Norm wants to make a comment or two. And Claudine, it's really appreciated that you got into this. And I, as an executive recruiter, I always like to know people's background. I didn't know about the background and how you were brought up. And I think that adds an awful lot to this conversation. And thanks for sharing that with us. Norm, go ahead, please.
Well, I just want to say God bless you for what you're doing. For me, it just speaks to your personal relationship with the Lord, that you're listening, and that He gives you the boldness to step out and do what He's called you to do. And again, I just commend you. I wish we had about 10 million like you across America, and we'd change things. So we'll be praying for you for sure. And God bless you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I think there are 10 million out there, but it's, I would hate to think where I would be had it not been for those tough times that I had to go through. I really, it's difficult to be grateful for those things, but thanks to the Holy Spirit, I am grateful for those things. I wish I wasn't so stubborn that I had to go through them, but I managed to use those negative things. It's opened up an entire sensitivity of things that are going on in life that I've been too selfish. I'm just blessed to be where I am and to have this unction that I got from the Holy Spirit with regards to the natural family. I'm not nearly smart enough to think about this, but this is so smart and so positive and so timely. I'm grateful that I was able to. It's either the Holy Spirit or a brain fart. Okay, if you talk to my wife, she says it's probably that. Never mind. If it's, but I'm very grateful for it, and I can tell you right now that the enemy does not have an answer for this. Our adversaries does not have an answer to this. They want this to go away, and I'm sure that in your conversations, Claudine, that you've found people that. Well, I mean, you mentioned your fellow congresspersons that they okay, well, if you take the slings and arrows and you get this done, all right, we'll support you. But I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to come alongside you. I'm not going to row with you. God help us. God help us.
So true. And, and I hate to say it, but it's the men. It's the men. I'm so sorry, but they're the ones that are like, they're in the back and they're like, you go ahead. Let's see what happens. I'll be there. Maybe.
I didn't want to share this, but I'm going to share it. I was at the store the other day and I heard these two couples and they were talking about the bad things that are happening. And I kind of, invited myself into the conversation and started to talk to them about the natural family. And I could see interest in it. And the second thing I saw was the men moved away from the conversation and the women took it over.
Men do not want confrontation. And you know what? I'm owning my confrontation.
Ooh.
I'm owning it. Because you know what? I am so tired of being pushed back. If there's definitely something wrong in a conversation or whatever issue is that, I have every right to speak my mind. And I do it with respect and with truth, with what I know at the time. But there's just something about people not wanting to be in a confrontation, to stand up for their own values and their beliefs. And I'm like, I can totally respect other people's values and beliefs, but they should respect mine as well. And you can do that in a positive, respectful way and then go on. But people would just rather not discuss any of it, which just surprises me. And I see that a lot with our men. I don't know if it's because they're afraid they're going to hit somebody, but sometimes I'm thinking maybe we need a little hitting.
Ooh.
Sorry.
I think it's the water, Claudine. I think it's the water and the food that we're eating. I think that's
No, it's
what
all
it is.
that soy. It's got that estrogen in there, but I'm telling you, I don't know what it's doing to women, because I know plenty of women fighters that are fighting even our leaders in legislation. We have a leader, representative in our state who is fighting just for witnesses to take the oath, so we can at least say yes, they are taking an oath to tell the truth when they're at a hearing. And that has created such a charge at our leadership level in the state that we're told to stand back. And I'm like, okay, now see, when you tell me to stand back for something that should be happening because it's in our Constitution, I got a problem with that. So no, I'm not going to stand back. I'm going to support that person.
And folks, you need to pray for Claudine, pray for the family, pray that God would protect her, go before her. For everyone that's involved in this battle, I've already been experiencing some very interesting spiritual battles as I've gotten into this, and that's become more known, and issues are popping up that hadn't popped up before. And it is what it is. I want to address one issue that we kind of touched on lightly, and that is the end of days scenario. And as a Christian, let's just say that, okay, this is the end of days. Maybe it's going to end Sunday, or maybe it's going to end a year from now. And it's certainly going to end if the former vice president sitting in a presidential seat gets reelected. It's certainly going to end then, within the next 2 or 3 years, 7.5 years, maybe. Maybe that's why you're counting. Okay. Let's just say that's true. As a Christian, what is your job to do between now and then? Aren't we supposed to be out there saving souls? Well, yes, we are, Brother BJ. Yes, we are. Well, let me ask you another question. The Bible says the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit, for it's foolishness unto them. Nor do they know it, because it's spiritually discerned. Now what? You go out and preach the word to them and they roll their eyes and the conversation's over with. Now what do you do? Here's what Claudine's doing, what I'm doing, Mr. Anderson doing, what Norm's doing, what everybody else in our pack is doing. Knowingly or unknowingly, we are trying to create an environment where Christian thoughts, Christian ideals, and Christian leaders can get traction in the marketplace of ideas, where we don't get the rolling of the eyes. Look, when you start talking to somebody about Jesus Christ or the Bible, for the most part, the conversation's over with. Now, what do? How do you save that soul, folks? By hiding? By praying? I'm sorry, I'm not making fun of prayer. I just ask you to pray, okay? The prayer enables you and enables others. I kid a lot about, I tell people to stop praying, because the more they pray, the more I get to do. Stop it. Okay, but we need to understand that this, whatever we're doing, is trying to create that environment. Whether I'm trying to get the natural family established, or Claudine's doing something else, or our Coach Dave is doing something else, or Mark Herring is doing something else. The bottom line is we're trying to create an environment where you can understand that you have a decision to make. You can understand that, where you be willing to at least listen to it. And by the way, using natural law is a great way of discussing the Bible, because the Bible basically records natural laws. When God created the heavens and the earth and everything in it, he created a supportive system for righteousness. Those are natural laws, physical and spiritual. I'm running my mouth. You're a guest. I'm sorry, Claudine.
No, you're right on, BJ. Right on. No, and it's true. It's easy to just sit back, and prayer is important, but prayer is that motivator. God gives us the will to do what's right.
Yeah.
And people will tell me all kinds of ideas they have, and I'm like, great, do it. Oh no, I can't do that. I'm not like you. They all of a sudden start comparing themselves, and oh, it won't be that successful. I don't know if anything will be successful, but if you can't try, if you don't try,
Ooh.
it's you don't get to see. And maybe it's not as successful as you had hoped. But maybe there's another year that you can improve on that. Maybe something else will come in. Maybe other people will step up. And I'm seeing that even at my local level in the government. I could have stepped up to other positions, but God did not urge me. I didn't feel that necessity, because you know what? He had somebody else in mind too. So that allowed me to say, hey, I got some time. Let's move on the natural family. And let's get some signs out there. Whether people know about it or not, they're going to see it. They always see my road frontage as the political decision making for what they're going to do, which is kind of funny, but or how they're going to vote. But it's just that first step, and then maybe next year we can do a festival, or something like that. Maybe other people will want to know more about that, and they're going to visit the site, and then they're going to support it. And I just think you got to start somewhere.
Planting seeds is exactly what we're doing.
Somewhere.
And asking
the
question.
Step forward.
Yep. In sales, it's that question you don't ask. It's when you, oh, I don't know, I'm awful tired. It's just easier not to ask that question. But that's generally when the sale happens. It's almost like there's a rule that when it really gets rough and when it really gets tough and you have to make a little extra effort, there's where you make a difference, when you have to make that extra effort. And it ain't easy, folks, but the rewards at the other end, you can't explain them. You cannot explain them. You really can't.
And people will be critical. I am being raked up.
Nah.
And it's fine, because you know what? That means that they're paying attention. Maybe they're just jealous they didn't think about it first, but they're paying attention. It's getting that information out there, and people will build off of that.
Amen. Mr. Anderson?
Well, one of the toughest mission fields I think going is your own family.
Ooh.
That's one of the hardest places to turn things around. And I think that where they call it the last days, the Bible says in John, or one of the little Johns, I call them, I don't remember which one, first, second, or third, he says we are in the last days. That began back when it began at the cross, the last days, and we've seen the signs of the times ever since. But the idea of reaching out to your own family and bringing them preparing them for whatever might be coming ahead, and regrouping and gathering them like a flock, your own family, is probably the most important mission field you can take on at this time.
Claudine, I have one quick question for you. We're going to have to go. It's a hard break at the top of the hour. Thank you very much for helping us out this morning. If the state of New Hampshire passes a proclamation for the natural family, do you think this would make communities safer or less safe?
Well, I just hope that the information gets out to the families to know. And yes, I think that families, if they see a unity of the same thought, the same belief, they're going to be able, because right now everybody's fractured. But if we can bring in, hey, yeah, I'm a family sport, and there's a lot of us, but we don't have anything to connect us to.
Amen.
And I think if these signs, and if it builds up to festivals or whatever, that's going to bring families and have that sense of establishment. Yes, we are here and we are strong and we're not going anywhere. And we are going to teach our children these values and to continue what God has given us to be together, united as a family. So it can only be good. That's all I see out of it anyway. It can only be good.
Amen. Claudine, thank you very much for taking the time today. Now, I know you got to go out and plant some signs, so I'm going to let you go.
Okay. Thank you so much. Take care.
Hey, BJ Edwards along, Mr. Anderson. Hey, stay tuned for the second hour. we got some fun for you. Yeah, we got some fun for you. Start off with singing some fun.
You're waiting for me to play break, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Then I got to scroll down here and find it. Then we'll get on with the second hour.
Listen to Last Call, BJ Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. And this is your last call. And there are opportunities. Oh, there's so many opportunities. They abound. Naturalfamilystrong.com. Naturalfamilystrong.com.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
Wow. That was The Who. I think that was in the 70s, early 70s. 1984, Brave New World, and The Who. The words of that song are stunning. We'll be fighting in the streets with our children at our feet, and the morals that they worship will be gone. Where's the church today, folks? And the men who spurred us sit in judgment of all wrong. They decide, and the shotgun sings the song. I tip my hat to the new Constitution. They're ignoring that now. Take a bow for the new revolution. Smile and grin at the change all around. Pick up my guitar and play. Just like yesterday, things are just like they used to be. Then I get on my knees and pray for the second coming, that we won't get fooled again. Speaking of which, the House passes and sent a $95 billion foreign aid bill to the Senate, and the Senate approved it, and the president signed it. $95 billion. Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan. Another bill that could ban TikTok if the company is not taken out of Chinese control also passed. After the votes, Speaker Johnson, the bill's father, Christian Mike, said that the global threats from Iran, Russia, China necessitated American leadership and support for spending. And then the Democrats were waving Ukrainian flags, chanting Ukraine on the House floor as the bill passed, and promised to keep Mike Johnson's job alive after Ukraine aid passed. Mike's probably saying to himself, like today's compromising church, that yeah, it's bad, but with me, it's the lesser of the evils. Think of how bad it would be if it were a Democrat. Democrats say that Mike gave them everything that they wanted, and they got nothing in return. Borders still open. We now have a worse financial crisis than we had before. You can't keep borrowing and borrowing and borrowing to the tune of trillions. Somebody's going to knock on the door and ask America to pay. And when that happens, children at your feet, we're going to do what you do with civilizations that get to the point where we are. You're going to have a dictatorship. People are going to be screaming and yelling, we need help from the government. We've grown a great dependency on the government. We've got to have the government helping us. 95 trillion. I think you have a video there, Mr. Anderson, that kind of that a good gentleman, a former congressman, talks about this $95 billion, billion trillion. What makes a difference, right? If you would, Mr. Anderson, please.
When future historians go searching for the final nail in the U.S. coffin, they may well settle on the date April 20th, 2024. On that day, Congress passed legislation to fund 2.5 wars, hand what's left of our privacy over to the CIA and the NSA, and give the U.S. president the power to shut down whatever part of the internet he disagrees with. The U.S. and its allies have already sent over $300 billion to Ukraine, and the country is still losing its war with Russia. Nobody believes another $60 billion will pull a victory from the jaws of defeat. But this additional money is meant to keep up appearances until November at the expense of Americans who are forced to pay for it and Ukrainians who are forced to die for it. Speaker Johnson could not have passed these monstrosities without the full support of House Democrats, and as the majority of Republicans voted against more money for Ukraine. So in the worst example of bipartisanship, Johnson reached across the aisle, stiffed the Republican majority that elected him Speaker, and pushed through a massive gift to the warfare corporate welfare state. After the House voted to send another $60 billion to notoriously corrupt Ukraine, members waved Ukrainian flags on the House floor and chanted, "Ukraine, Ukraine." While I find it's distasteful and disgusting, in some ways it seemed fitting. Not to be outdone, the U.S. Senate on that same day passed the extension of Section 702 of the FISA Act, which not only allowed the government to continue spying on us without a warrant, but also contained new language massively expanding how they can spy on us. Many conservative voters are asking, what's the point of Republican control of the House is if the agenda is determined by Democrats? Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is reported to have bragged to his colleagues about how easily Speaker Johnson gave Democrats everything they wanted and asked for nothing in return.
A few questions, if you can bring in, get your thoughts on this. Go bring Jeff in, please. JC in, please. Yep. You're a businessman and a conservative, a Christian conservative. What are your thoughts about this, Jeff?
Well, for the past 3.5 years, under Joe Obama, this business here, used car sales, has been worse than it has been in 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I watch all these politicians. They don't give a rip about you and me. They don't care. They don't care about our kids. They don't care about our country. We, like Cal Zastrow said, we're living in banana land. Marxism's coming. You know, I just went to the bank the other day, get a $20,000 business loan to stay afloat a little longer and just keep losing money. About ready to pull the plug on my business. I mean, and a lot of them have over the years. Look how many businesses have failed. And some are still borderline going to drop. I mean, it's crazy. These people are broke. They can't buy cars.
We have a car dealership, major car dealership is building a new building almost right next door to us. Large dealership. Mom and pop stores are kind of suffering right now, aren't they, Jeff?
Yep, absolutely.
Some
of these people are going out and buying these new vehicles, though, and new Harleys and new boats. And I'm like, what are they thinking? Everything's going to crash here soon. But like one guy told me, he said, just go get whatever you want. He said, how's the government going to repo everything? Houses, boats, cars, motorcycles. They ain't going to get it all. So some of them are just going out and splurging, and they don't care.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But what do you think about that $95 billion? What do you think about giving money to Ukraine? What do you think about Christian Mike? I tell you what, we have a good friend, and I asked that friend, tell me, he knows Mike Johnson. This is what before all this happened. I said, is this guy okay? Is he good? And I got a real positive vibe from him. I even sent money for the guy's re-election campaign.
Yep, sounded good at first.
Yeah.
Thought we had a chance there. Go get Mike in there. Good Christian man with good morals. People bragging him up. You know what? This is how I see it. The government is just like the church. They both go hand in hand. What's their main concern? Money. It's all about the money. Just 95 billion. I mean, my goodness. We're dying on the vine here. Families are struggling. Kids can't eat. Kids are overdosing, kids on drugs. Little boys think they're girls now. 42% of the kids in the schools claim to be trans. We are a mess. If the church don't wake up, it's over.
They can certainly help, Jeff. They could certainly make a difference.
Yep. 140 churches in our county. We could make a huge difference right here in Knox County. 140. That's pathetic. And they all keep building on.
Yeah, it's hope. It's let somebody else do the work. I'm going to let Jesus do all the work, and I'll just sit here and I'll take the benefits from it. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I pray.
I took a picture of a church sign the other day here in Mount Vernon. They put on the sign out front, nothing about storming the gates or pushing back the darkness. They put on there, keep calm, pray on. Keep calm, pray on. Just sit back, keep calm. It's like,
even if you start getting the families back together, Jeff, the church has to be the support for the family. And if it's not there, God help us with regards to that family situation, because the family's out there without a defense. And the church should be that defense. It should be instructing the families in terms of what to do during these times, as versus just sitting back and waiting for the second coming.
I think they meet every Sunday night over there, or once a month or every Sunday. I don't know how often, but a group of pastors at this little Baptist church in town. I'm thinking I need to just go over there and walk in with the information about the natural family and just see how they respond to me. I've heard of somewhere in 6 to 15 pastors getting together over there. Just walk in on them. And I guarantee you most of them will look like, oh no, JC, what is he doing here?
Yeah, standing up.
Well, we'll be doing church on the square. We're going to get the permit next month. Every Saturday, 1 to 3 on the public square. And I'm going to try to invite some of these apostate churches to come up. Not most of them won't. I might get a couple, but we'll do it all summer, 1 to 3 on the square. I labeled it Church on the Square. Just come up to the public. I'll tell people they can come up and pray, preach, sing, pass out tracts, read scripture publicly, whatever. We'll just do a combination of wherever the Spirit leads with what we'll do.
Yeah. And hopefully your federal representative or your senator will come in and help out, Jeff. I know you can count on that, right?
Oh, I'll bet you Jim Jordan and JD Vance and all of them will be there.
Hey, we're going to take a break.
All right.
And when we come back, we're gonna talk about local, and I think we'll bring Norm in. Norm wanted to say something. So B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson, folks. This battle needs to be fought at the local level. And I'm going to read an article. I'm sorry. I'm getting these emails from these organizations, and this one's talking about the WHO, not the group that we just played the song from, but about the World Health Organization. B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. This is your last call, folks.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with B.J. Edwards.
Before I get to that email, I'm going to bring Norm in. And Norm, what do you think about all this? What do you think about Christian Mike or Muck Mike or whatever you want to call Mike?
Well, when he was elected, I didn't sleep well that night. I was so excited to have him in there. And I've never been any more disappointed in him than I was Mike Pence, when he did what he did. But I'll tell you what I suspect. I suspect that God is putting us in a position based on our own choices. I mean, we're paying the health care and the retirement benefits for the Ukraine leadership over there.
Mm-hmm.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
But I suspect that God is going to put us in a position that the government cannot help us. And the only way that we're going to be able to survive is in a relationship with him and in total dependence on the Lord. And I just kind of see it, coming in that direction. And again, it's, when we look for Donald Trump, Donald Trump is not the answer for us. He may be part of the answer, but he's not the answer. Us getting back and following the instructions that God gave us is their only answer. And everybody's saying, or not everybody, but a lot of people are saying, we need to get back to God, which is true, but nobody's got a plan to do that. And so
God does.
God does. He's got a plan. And, I presented one too. Of course, mine's probably not on the par of God's, but anyway, we just got to start following the directions. I mean, it's great for people to go back to church and things, but, for a lot of people, going back to church is kind of like the alcoholic saying, I'll go to AA meetings, but I'm still going to keep drinking. We'll go to church, but we still want to keep doing what we've been doing, and that's not going to work. So God's putting us in a corner.
Well, there's always an option with God to do the right thing.
Sure.
And we still have that timing to do the right thing, the end coming notwithstanding. Whether it happens tomorrow, or like I said, 10 years from now, or 2 years from now, it doesn't make any difference. That opportunity is there, and it's what we do with that makes so much difference for ourselves and for our nation. And I always like to say that these troubles we have are opportunities. And yes, we are spending ourselves into hell. And we're not feeling it. We're not seeing it. We see the inflation. I mean, that's starting to touch us. The inflation is, but we're really not, Norm, we're really not seeing what's happening here. And there comes a point where you're going to hit the wall. Right. And that may not be very soon. And I don't think that wall is the second coming. Okay. I think that is God sets up those spiritual laws that I talked about, and you start going against the spiritual law, the natural law, there's going to be a consequence to that. It could be 2 years from now. It could be 1 day from now. Whatever serves him best is what's going to happen. But it is always avoidable and can always be changed, and I believe it can be turned around. Now, I understand things are going to get worse and the end is going to happen. Okay? That's I understand that's what the Bible says, and the Bible says it, yeah, then it's true. But I don't know exactly where my position is, other than, like our guest, Ms. Burnham, I see a need and I need to fulfill it. I see pain happening if this doesn't happen. I see where we can avoid pain if we can make that happen. I see that. So should I not try to do that? Or should I put more gasoline on the fire and help God out and get this over with as soon as possible? What am I supposed to do here, Norm?
Well, we've got to fight. We've got to fight. And it gets discouraging. And, I spend hours every day calling and emailing and trying to get our legislators to develop biblical solutions for our country's issues. And, nobody wants to listen. And, as I shared before, I contacted about 15 of our largest churches in my community within about a 40-mile radius, asking them, would you support our legislators developing biblical solutions, for our country's issues? And if you do, give me a call. I haven't heard from anybody, and even the churches, are dead to this issue. Again, let's just get them to church and get them to tithe and, save a few and everything's all good.
And that's one of the things that you mentioned, church. And one of the things that I really want to impress on people that are listening to this program is that the original church had to start with the family.
Right.
And it had to be an outgrowth of the family. There wasn't a church, quote unquote, building. I was watching a video this morning about an Akron Baptist church that basically no longer exists. And they had thousands of people, I think 10 or 12,000 people that are eventually in this church. It's gone. But God didn't start with that building. He started with the family. And when we talk about a Father in heaven or our brothers and sisters in Christ, if there were no family, what would that mean to us? That would mean absolutely nothing to us. Other than a stranger on the street, a family member, one and the same, doesn't make any difference. But there are certain things that God put together, and he started with the family, and he initiated those spiritual laws that surround the family. And we've tried to get away from that in our independence. It's like I talk about in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve said, okay, Lord, thank you very much. It's perfect. We'll take it from here. Well, we see what happened, right? It ain't so perfect now. And I think we started off great in the United States of America. And a lot of that had to do with what? Families coming to America, right? Families coming to America and working from the family, the Adams family, right? Working from the family up. Go ahead, Norm. Did you want to say something?
No, well, as we know, the family is the base from which all things flow. And, when you have a breakdown of the family, you're going to lead to a weak and powerless church and a corrupt government. And, the teachings of the family, sets the direction for everything. It's going to set our fear level, our anxiety, whether we're depressed or not, whether we're be a giver or a taker, or everything is determined within the teachings of the family. And that's why, one of the first things God instructed after he initiated the family and the government was for the parents to teach their kids. God said, these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. Teach them diligently to your children. Talk about them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, when you rise up. And he went on. It's 24/7 process, and we've gotten away from that. And that's why God said, Hosea 4:6, he said, my people are destroyed from a lack of knowledge. And destroyed there meant dumb or being silent. And we're both.
So you think maybe that's what's happened now?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's become institutionalized, right? Not family institutionalized. God created three institutions for the benefit of man: the family, the church, and the state.
Right.
And the family institution includes the children. And it's wow, I've got a pretty athletic son or daughter. They're going to do pretty good in school. They're going to be pretty popular. So I got to get them in as soon as possible, get them into that system as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the system likes to put phalanges on the children, or in some cases take them off, that you don't particularly care for. But you've given them over to man. And it's always been a battle against man versus God. And our nature seems to be that we do ungodly things. And it's also cyclical, which drives me crazy. We go from starting from a godly to the man, and then bang, all hell breaks loose. And then we go back to the godly to the man. We discover when things get bad enough, which you mentioned early on, they are going to get bad enough. Then we come to our Creator and say, okay, what do we do now?
Mhm.
And he's going to say to us, "Oh, I told you." What do you mean you told me? I told you here, I told you there, I told you there. Yeah, but it didn't seem that important. And it does now? Oh yeah, it does now. Now what? As a father in heaven, now what do you do with that child? Interesting questions. Hey, I want to get to, if I've got time, I don't know whether I've got time to get through this, but I'm getting all kinds of emails from organizations that are wanting me. I mentioned to you all earlier about going to your congressman. If you go to the president of the United States, or you go to your senator federal, or you go to your House of Representatives federal, you're not going to hear from them. They are way over in another country called Washington, D.C. And pretty much for the state, the governor, and even your state representatives, it's going to be difficult to get to them, or senators. It's going to be very difficult to get to them. So what do? What you do is you go to the local level, and Mr. Anderson touched on it earlier. You have to start with the family, but don't stay there. You don't have to have immediate success with a family. It took a while to get to the family where they are today. It's going to take a while to get out of that, but you have to focus on the family. That's not a double entendre, but you do have to focus on the family. And you want to make sure that at least you start there, because eventually you might need their aid. And one of the things that I'm going to recommend is that a father in relationships, marriage relationships, by design, it is one biologically born male, female, in a lifelong committed monogamous relationship. If you get into that, monogamous means that the only relationships intimate you have should be with your mate. Lifelong, continuous. But we've grown up in an environment, and especially during the 60s and 70s, I'm okay, you're okay. If it feels good, do it. Well, that monogamous relationship's out the door. For the most part. There are exceptions to it, but it is the exception instead of the rule. You have to get into that mindset that this is important to do that. There's a lot of reasons, psychological and even physical, why that should be that way. Children, I thought when I graduated from college, the first in the family, that I was big stuff, that I knew, and I was in the business world. And then I took those teachings I got from the school into the business world. And until I had experience in the business world, I found out that, you know what, not everything they taught me in college worked. But that wasn't where I really learned. I'll tell you what, I really learned, I'm going to get into that. We're going to take a break. B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. This is your last call. Let's take a break. I'm going to get into you where I really started learning about what this was all about. And it shouldn't surprise you, but for those of you that haven't done it, it will surprise you.
Last call with BJ Edwards. Real talk about real life.
And again, local. You want to start this in the family. I thought I was getting along pretty well in the business world. It was going pretty okay. Yeah. Okay, school was, I thought I had it then, but no. When I got into the business world and I was being successful there, that was it. And then we had children. And I really realized how dumb and stupid I was. Children are a learning experience par excellence non. You're not going to find a better place to start learning until you have children. That's from an emotional standpoint, and that's from a material standpoint, every standpoint possible. Until you have those children. And I pray for this nation that we would get back to the natural family. That's why the natural family movement. But a family is children. Without children, you don't have a family. You got a marriage, you got a relationship with another individual, but that's not a family. And the family is the key. As goes the family, so goes the church. As goes the church, so goes the nation. But that is important. So why I'm going through all of this is I want you to understand that you need to start in the family, and maybe start by having a family. But once you start in the family, you have to go outside of that. You have to go to your neighbors, and you have to talk to them, because that's where, when the feces hits the oscillator, that's where you're going to need to find. If your I think about Coach Dave Daubenmire and his relationship, location wise, with his family. He's surrounded by his family, about his daughters and their family, the son and their family. He's surrounded by them, but he's still isolated. Yes, the family is important, but in this day and age, because of the overpopulation, we have to deal with civilization around us that isn't family. So we need to get to know them. Maybe you can go out to the neighborhood this weekend or next weekend and start asking them about the natural family. Hey, got a sign here, natural family. Would you consider putting that in your yard? And it's going to open up conversations. And you're going to find out a lot about who's an ally and who's not an ally. And you also might find out openings where you can start sharing with them, not just about the family, but about other spiritual aspects. You don't know till you ask, but you do need to go to the neighborhood. Now, I say this because it is critical, it is important, and that's how this is going to change. Do you remember the Vietnam War? Some of you may not, but the Vietnam War was where the United States went into a country and meant to change them. And you know what the biggest problem was with our, look, we had a military par excellence non. Nobody could outshoot us, outbomb us. We were there. We had it. But we were getting our rear ends kicked in Vietnam. And you know why? They were having trouble at the local level because there would be pockets. By the way, I am not promoting a physical war, but I am stating some facts of where local resistance to what is happening in the world, maybe it's the LGBT issue. Do you think that small towns are better off, or larger cities are better off when it comes to the LGBTQ movement, to the sexual perversion movement? Where are they having more success? Where are they having less success? In those little pockets, those little communities, those little neighborhoods. Yeah, we don't have it here because it's a small city. We're a small town, smaller than this town, smaller than that town. So we don't have it here. But in Vietnam, they had pockets of resistance, family members, if you will, that were giving great resistance to our strong American force, to our Air Force. Stealth. But they were offering an incredible resistance to our military invasion there. Local, if Big Brother comes a knocking, look what's happened to the J6ers. And you don't think that can happen? You don't think now that Congress has passed this huge okay to the CIA to spy on you, to listen to you, that hasn't and won't make a difference? That they can come knocking on your door anytime? And when they knock on your door, you dial 911, call the sheriff, and the sheriff comes in and helps you? You don't think that would make a difference? Mr. Anderson, please.
Well, you're talking my language now. The idea of small town, small church, small pockets. The mega churches are so corrupt. They are like our government. They're whatever it is, whether it's money or power or whatever they're looking for. They're disinterested in telling the truth and supporting the individual. They're all about their own business. The same thing happens in the city. You get lost in the crowd, and they want to appeal to everybody and everything. You know, they talk about diversity and inclusion and things that are unreasonable. And when you get into a smaller town, and they know each other and they know each other's kids, and you know, I grew up in a small town where before I got home, my parents knew everything I did wrong.
Yeah, that's the communication lines. Yes, that's good. That's good. Go ahead.
And that kind of thing it's not a telltale thing like they're trying to encourage now, where they're saying to rat your neighbor out because he said some hate speech
like
or something.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. And we got to watch the hate speech laws. They're coming out. That's the next thing. But anyway, it was meant in love, right? Make sure everybody's okay. And you knew your neighbors down the street. Weekends, parents would get together at one house, and the kids would get together in the other house, and the oldest kid of the bunch would be in charge. And if there was a problem, you know, the parents knew about it. The doors and windows are open, and they're all okay. That was the way the small town, and it is the way the small town works still today, I think. Same thing happens with the church, you know. My wife and I are members of we're not official members, but we attend a small church in town here. And if somebody's hurt or in need, there's a phone call, and so needs this and so needs that. You know, Amy fell and hurt her leg and she can't cook. So next thing you know, you got everybody lined up to provide a meal for one night for about a week or two, whatever it takes to help the family get through. That's the way it works. That's what it's about. And I just encourage people, forget the big churches because they have entertainment for your kids. You don't even know what they're teaching their kids. They can send them off to Sunday school in an isolated place, and who knows what kind of propaganda they're being fed. So if you go to the smaller church, you know what's going on. You know who's talking to your kids and what they're talking about.
Local.
Hey, folks. Welcome back to Bridgetown Abridged. Local government is far more important than most people give it credit for. You might think, local government? Aren't those the people that won't stop talking about public libraries? Well, yes, because public libraries are totally lit. But they do a lot more than just provide our astounding libraries. More so than the higher levels of government, local politics affect our lives and shape the world around us. Local governments provide a ton of services that we all rely on every day. They plow our snow, they remove our sewage, and in many places they provide our power. Do you like roads? If they're in a city or a town, they were most likely paved by your municipal government. Ever been helped by the fire department? Those are city or county employees. Ever ridden public transit? You probably paid a fare, but it was available thanks to your local government. Unless you're a survivalist living in Alaska just waiting on that nuclear apocalypse, it'd be pretty hard to go through your day without your local government. Local governments are much more responsive to your comments and concerns. For no cost but some of your time, you can go and attend a city council meeting. If there's an issue that you care about, there's a good chance that you'll be able to speak to your council members about that. Unlike members of the US government, it's not hard to even get a one-on-one meeting with most local politicians, which is pretty neat. Just call up their offices and see if they have time free. With our new technologies, it's even easier than it ever was in the past. If you have a Twitter or a Facebook, many local politicians have their own accounts and will respond to you over social media. That means that you can literally participate in local politics while sitting on the toilet. I'm not saying that that's advisable or sanitary, but that's how easy it is. Local governments have a large effect on the culture of the people that they serve. They're like the rudder that guides the ship. A city government can choose to encourage or hamper the population growth of their municipality. They could decide to install bike lanes, or they can decide to increase the capacity of the roads. In some areas, the county can pick between dedicating funds to schools, or jails, or public transit. In addition to decisions like those, many of the defining features of the places that we live in are there because the people and the local government of those places decided that it should be so. Portland and Seattle are filled with public art thanks largely to their nifty public art taxes. Las Vegas is soon going to be the new home of the Raiders thanks to efforts from the Las Vegas city government. The famous New York subway system exists today thanks largely to the city and metropolitan governments. Our towns and cities would be unrecognizable if it were not for the people who served on their local governments and the decisions that they made. It's hard to remember how much of an effect our local politicians have on our lives. Even though it's easy for us to reach out to them, sometimes it can feel like they're a million miles away. We often only hear about them when something's wrong, and that can make it difficult to see how much they really do. When you put it all into perspective, though, it's easy to see how important local governments really are. Thank you for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, I'd hope that you'd like and possibly...
Local. You know the thing about local that I like? It's the eye-to-eye contact. Yeah, you can see your representative and talk to them. And you don't even have to talk to them like JC. If they see you in the room,
Oh no.
Oh, he's here. Oh no, not again.
But what if you attended the same church as your mayor or some of your council members?
Yeah, good point.
And the pastor had enough gumption to address some of the issues when he sees something wrong with what they're doing. If
Heck yeah! Heck yeah! Heck yeah!
And one of the things that has been going on, we're hearing from people that are excited about the natural family and how they are talking to their mayors and councils and so forth. And it seems to be a growing interest, even among those groups.
Yeah, it is a weapon. It is a item.
A tool. It's a tool.
Yeah, tool that we've not had before. And it's kind of like that diamond edge. It's really tough to break it. It's tough to break it. It is an incredible tool that we haven't used, but we need to unwrap it and start using it. Will they present some resistance to it? Of course they will. But that's where you take advantage of that as well. It's all a learning experience. I still want to get to that, those emails I've been getting. I'm going to do that. I guess we could take a break and I'll get to those. But these are emails that I think take us away from the real battle, which is local. Mr. Anderson, if you could take us to the break. This is BJ Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. Your last call, encouraging you to get out there.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
This is even beyond the federal level. This is the world level. And you're getting these emails and well-intended, okay? Well-intended. I'm not going to question the intentions, but this doesn't push the local. It's talking about our long-waged war against the WHO pandemic treaty has reached its boiling point. Yeah, it's going to reach you locally. And what's your defense, folks? What is your defense? For nearly 2 years together, you and I have waged relentless battle against what is one of the greatest looming threats to our core liberties, and our efforts have paid off. I know that throughout all this time, you, like me, haven't been fooled, into thinking pandemic treaty is about protecting our health. Not at all. The pandemic has long been over, but globalists are still pressing forward to ratify the pandemic treaty. Why? Well, where's the victory here, by the way? They haven't stopped. They're like the Energizer Battery folks. They're not going to give up until they get what they want, which we should be doing as well. Citizens becoming puppets of a globalist power that controls our health, the vaccines, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you for your consistent support. They failed to ratify it, but now the UN elites are desperately trying to finalize the agreement before the set deadline of 27th May, UN World Health Assembly. Folks, I'm not saying you shouldn't consider supporting this. I'm not saying that, but don't put your hopes in it. Even if, like I said, the Energizer Buzzy, they're going to be back. They're going to be back. They talk about vaccines, etc. So in lieu of that, I get another email from another organization, MoveOn.org. You know what they're about, right? This is incredible. This is incredible. Will you sign a petition to keep COVID testing free and accessible? What? This week makes the 4-year anniversary of the Centers for Disease Control first declared the COVID-19 pandemic. The somber anniversary follows a disappointing announcement that the government program providing free, I didn't even know they were still doing this, free COVID tests through the U.S. Postal Service has officially been terminated. COVID is still spread. Boy, you get it from both sides, don't you? COVID is still spreading, and now Americans will face yet another barrier to testing. One of the most important tools that public, you know what stopped this COVID insanity is you and I at the local level. I can remember going to a local grocery store. Kroger wouldn't let me in without a mask. Major chain. But Meijer, I told them about a religious exemption, and they honored that. Yet, most of the people in that store were still wearing masks. Now, what did old positive BJ do? I would walk up to people that didn't have, I bought gift certificates. I would walk up to people who didn't have a mask on and say to them, you know what? It's really nice to see your face today, and hand them a $10 gift certificate to Meijer. Now, Mrs. BJ, don't worry. I didn't give out a whole lot of those $10 gift certificates, okay? But for the ones that were not wearing the mask, they got them. That's where we make a difference, folks, at the local level. Support the Meijers of the world as versus the Krogers of the world. Support the local stores that are allowing you to put the natural family signs in them. Well, how do I know who they are? You don't know till you ask, right? The local eateries, the local businesses, the mom and pop shops, the JCs of the world. Support them because they're trying to offer resistance to this insanity that we're going through right now. But I get these, just to let you know what MoveOn are, what the opposition's doing. They're doing the same thing, but they're being more successful because they have the news media with them. They have the politicians with them, at least at the national level, and likely even at the state level. Somebody was listening to somebody the other day in the video that said Ohio was formerly a red state, now a blue state. I don't know when we were really a red state. I don't know. I'm sorry, a blue state and then became a red state, becoming a red state. The way they use those red collars. These guys are good. These guys are good. Folks, we want to make sure that you don't get fooled again. Be realistic about the world you're living in. And don't frustrate yourself too much trying to get a hold of your federal reps or electing the right person to the president or elected. It helps. But look at all the things that Donald Trump accomplished and how quickly that was turned around. within a matter of, I'll say hours, but let's say months and obviously years. Look where we are now. And how quick that can change. Look at our Congress. Look at what Christian Mike had to do, maybe, okay? Thought he was doing the right thing, limiting damage, but shoring up the opposition at the same time. Absolutely incredible. And as far as our legal system goes, I got this from our friend Martin. A Pickaway, Ohio sex offender pleads guilty to 30 child pornography-related charges. This is by Nancy Bowman, Crime and Law. A registered sex offender living in Pickaway has pleaded guilty in Miami court to 30 felony counts on pandering, sexually oriented matter involving minors. Keyshawn Lamar Satterwhite, 29, was accused of possessing child pornography for allegedly knowingly having several videos on his cell phone and a tablet of young children performing sex acts. Satterwhite is a registered sex offender in the county, a requirement imposed on the county juvenile court. If ordered to serve consecutive sentence on each charge, he could face up to a maximum of 244 years in prison. Satterwhite remains in county jail pending sentencing scheduled on May 30th. But there's an update to this, folks. And this just came in this morning. The judge in the case has issued a release of the prisoner, Keyshawn Lamar Satterwhite, after having found out that he currently holds a teaching certificate, is an NEA union member, and that all he was really doing was practicing his DEI certification. You know, showing children sex acts. I'm okay, you're okay, right? His previous supposed child sex offense having now been expunged as he's been fully DEI certified.
Love is love. We just want acceptance. We just want equality. Bake the cake or go to court. Say my pronouns or lose your job. Your kids will watch drag shows. Love is love. We just want acceptance.
What the last part of what I just said to you, for now, didn't really happen. This gentleman's still in jail. But here's from part of my good news to bad news that I didn't include in the first hour. Harvey Weinstein's 2020 rape conviction was overturned Thursday by the New York Court of Appeals, and many are wondering what happened. He's been serving a 23-year prison sentence in New York's Mohawk Correctional Facility following his conviction on charges of criminal sex act for forcibly performing oral sex on a TV and film production assistant in 2006, a third-degree rape for an attack on an aspiring actor in 2013. We're dependent on our court systems, right? I don't think so, Tim. Now, Harvey Weinstein's story is true. What's to keep from what I just read to you being the truth? It's you and I, of course. But you have to do, folks. You got to engage the battle. It's not going to be easy, but you're going to learn a lot more about yourself and about your creator than you can ever imagine. And please, 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 the Supreme Court is about to change everything. The Supreme Court is not going to be our ally, folks. They're not going to bail out the president. They're not going to bail out the J6ers. That's up to you and I. Number one, to keep that from happening in the first place. Please, 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 one of the weapons that you can use And one of the purposes we brought Claudine this morning is the power of this natural family movement. Just getting people talking about it. Just getting people talking about it is important. Answering questions about it. By the way, it is the most inclusive celebration that you could ever have. At least for those that are born and walking around in the USA or the world right now. Because if you're a child, you're part of the natural family celebration. Whether you like it or not. You don't even have to agree with it. You're still part of it. I hope you take heart to what we're doing. Please do something, folks. Do something. Look, prayer is an enabler. I don't deny that. And I don't deny that you need that. And there are some great churches out there. And like Mr. Anderson said, you're probably going to find them in the small category. That's good. You can work with that. And they can work with you. You need that spiritual feed. Yep. You need the prayer. Yep. You need to learn about the Bible. Yep. But you also need to engage the culture. There's a reason God put us here on planet Earth. We could be reading the Bible and praying in heaven, couldn't we? There's a purpose for us having a physical body, for experiencing love and pain and hate. All that has a purpose. And the more you engage, the more you get on the field, the more you stop just cheering in the stands and get down on the field and run a play, the more you learn about yourself, the more you learn about the Creator, and I think a better person you become in this world and beyond. I thank you all for listening in today. I appreciate Claudine is just very special lady. There's a lot of special people out there that we've had on the program and we'll continue to have on the program. We emphasize doing, folks. Go to your meetings, yes. Listen to the complaints, but listen to them as opportunities, not as problems, but as opportunities. And then grab a hold. If you see a need, you hear a complaint, you see a need, that, folks, consider that your calling and act appropriately. Looking forward to next week's program. Looking forward to hearing from you in terms of what you did. The local church is the only place on earth where little children, the elderly, families, singles, widows, and adopted orphans, all different ancestries, colors, and socioeconomic backgrounds come together to sing of victory, partake of one supper, and confess one faith. Going to leave with that today, folks. Thanks for listening in. God bless you. This has been your last call with B.J. Edwards and Mr. Anderson.
Join us next week for Last Call with B.J. Edwards.